till everybody comes. Do you think the man from Highland is coming?
Oh, he just popped up. I'm gonna.
Oh, did he? Great. If you want to.
Can you guys see us?
Yes, yes, we can hear you.
And just close those windows up there. I think that's mine.
Barbara, we have both William from Highland Park and his program director, Carolina.
Carolina, great, thank you. So Haley, you'll tell us when your associates come.
Well, I think that's a plurality of who they were expecting.
Oh, no, Haley just said that she was waiting for some people.
Okay, great.
Yes, they're having some trouble logging into the Zoom. I just recirculated it, so they should be on any second.
Okay. And Wilma's not here yet, is she?
No,
No.
I haven't seen her yet.
Okay. I know Rebecca can't come, so it's all me. Oh, there's Will. Haley, is Lalani coming?
And we'll go over this in a second, but the way our Zoom meetings work is if you mute yourself, you're unable to unmute yourself. So just know that if you put yourself back on mute, you're going to have to get a prompt to confirm unmuting from Kevin.
Right. So I can sometimes I'll just send you the prompt and you can just leave it there until you're ready to talk. So
Why doesn't Kevin give the instructions for the meeting, and then hopefully by then Leilani and the others will be there.
Okay.
okay, then welcome everyone. If this is your first time joining us virtually, you will notice that you are currently muted, and everyone will remain muted throughout the meeting except for the committee co-chair Barbara and any presenters as we move through the agenda. Following the presentations, the co-chairs will call on any members of the public wishing to speak. You can participate by going to the reactions icon on your device and pressing the raise hand button, not the wave or thumbs up, as those will disappear. Only press it once. If you press it a second time, your hand will back down. Be on the lookout for a prompt asking you to confirm unmuting once the co-chairs call on you. The chat is available for technical support only, to help with Zoom software problems, not to ask questions of the co-chairs. They will not see the chats. If you are on the phone, it is *9 to raise hand and *6 to unmute. If you're using an older version of Zoom, you will need to go to the participants section where you will find the raise hand feature there. Please do not raise your actual hand or wave at the screen because we may not be able to see you. Chat me, I'm here for support. Thank you.
Okay, Haley, is it okay if we get started? Is Haley unmuted?
Hi, everyone. So sorry again, was helping to troubleshoot.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So my team, my teammates and colleagues, they will join shortly. And I see that was just joined by my colleagues at DHS. So great, we can get the show started. So again, thank you so much, and we appreciate your patience while we've been figuring out the
Okay, so I'm going to get started just introducing you and just starting off with a thank you. This is an important meeting. It is our first meeting to discuss the ever-present immigration problem in our area, and we really look forward to it, and thank both you and Highland for coming and presenting to us. And the one that actually organized that, we want to thank, as always, Will Brightbill, our district manager, and Kevin Wu, who's always wonderful, and Russell Squire, the chair of our community board. I'm Barbara Rutter. I'm co-chair with Wilma Johnson and Rebecca Dangor, I'm sorry, I just had it. And I'm going to just start introducing, if I hope I don't pronounce your names wrong, and I'm not sure who's here. So is Leilani here, Leilani Irvin? I do know her. If not, she's been on several of our calls. And then there's Marsha Holmes, and Haley is with us now. You pronounce your name Nolasco, am I right?
Correct. Yes.
Great, that's great. And Marika Scott McFadden, is she here?
No, she's not here this evening.
Okay, that's great. And from Highland Park, we really are very Highland Park. We're very pleased that William Ruse is here also. I hope I pronounced your name right. So who wants to get started? Do you want to, Haley?
Yes, of course. And thank you so much, Barbara, for introducing us. And thank you again, everyone, for inviting us to be here this evening with you all to talk a little bit more about this location. So as mentioned before, my name is Haley Nolasco. I'm the Assistant Deputy Commissioner of Intergovernmental and Legislative Affairs for the Department of Social Services. And I'm joined with my colleagues from Department of Homeless Services, as well as our service provider, Highland Park. I'm very happy to be working in partnership with Highland Park. They're a very responsive team and doing a lot of great work across the city and really giving meaningful social supportive services to our most vulnerable New Yorkers. So we are very happy to be working with them, again, in this community in particular. So for this location in particular, I did want to let you all know that there is, just to make everybody aware of the city's circumstance right now, as I'm sure you are all aware, the city continues to work to meet the need to provide shelter to individuals that are coming into the city, specifically to asylum seekers. So we are seeing a higher than usual amount of clients within our shelter system. As a result, to respond to this crisis, we have actually cited 139 shelters throughout New York City, just to get an idea of where we are, across the city. So this is definitely a 5-borough effort. And not only is it a 5-borough effort, but it's now a full city effort. Well, it has been a full city effort, rather. So we do have other sister agencies that are working in partnership with us to also respond to this need that we currently have throughout the city. So for DHS in particular, we have 139 shelters, but we do know that there are other locations throughout the city that are being managed by some of our other city agencies. So just wanted to open up and also share that distinction in the event there are any questions of locations that we are not managing, but we would definitely want to be transparent and let you all know where we are as far as numbers. But again, so we are really happy to be here this evening to talk a little bit more about this site in particular, to let you all know the specific demographics, the population, and where we are. So initially, when we had opened the location, DHS was providing the immediate social service need as we are ramping up our locations. As we know, we're doing these rather quickly. And Highland Park has taken over the site. They have transitioned to take over the site as of June of, want to make sure I get my numbers right, June 14th. So they are working together in partnership with DHS on site, as well as the National Guard. The National Guard, just to be clear, is not working in an enforcement capacity. Sometimes when we mention the National Guard, folks are like, well, what are they doing at the shelter? Is it an enforcement situation? Because they see them with uniforms, but they are there in an administrative supportive capacity. So they are there to assist DHS and Highland Park, which is now on site, with helping to check folks in and just offering, larger administrative support. So definitely not in an enforcement capacity, but they are there together for the next few weeks until the provider Highland Park takes over fully, which we anticipate will be at the end of July or likely early August, but shooting for end of July, just so you all know where we are. But both teams, of course, DHS and Highland Park, have been working really diligently to make sure that we have a robust system in place to really offer our New Yorkers a place to sleep, of course, and to get acclimated to their new city. Having said that, I would like to pass on over to Executive Director Will Ruiz, who will give a brief overview of the actual location and their supportive services that they anticipate to share with the clients. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. How's everyone doing this evening?
Good.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear fine. Thank you.
Thank you. First of all, let me just start thanking. I would like to thank the Board of Directors, District Manager, Mr. Brightbill, Madam Co-Chair, Barbara. Thank you so much for allowing us to introduce ourselves, and also most importantly, the public that resides within the surroundings of the Bentley Hotel. I am William Ruiz. I am the executive director to this wonderful agency that I'm so proud to be part of. And I would like to pass on the mic to my colleagues here.
How you doing, everyone? Once again, over Mr. William, thank you guys for actually having us here today. My name is Keith White, the Director of Programs. I'm gonna pass it on to Mr. Robert Velasquez.
Good evening. Thank you again for inviting us. My name is Mr. Robert Velasquez, and I'm the Director of Operations for Highland Park.
So just to give you a quick brief of who we are, we've been around since 1998. We oversee, this is our 5th sanctuary shelter, so we're not new to the game. We understand, that there is a need, and we're here to try to do as best as possible to work with our partners in the community, our local precincts, and any non-for-profit that's willing to participate with us, with Highland Park. Just to give a quick background of me, I've been in the social service world for the last 23 years. I've worked in different capacities, and I have to say that I mention this all the time. I'm at my glory doing this job, working with the homeless, knowing that one person that you can house, it's a great mission. So, and I know that there's a lot of people out there that would like to participate and see those that are homeless, because we don't only work with the sanctuary, we also work with the regular population from New York City, just to give you an overall. And I'm happy where I'm at. I'm excited to meet everyone on this forum, and I am ready to answer any questions to the best of my ability. And I'll pass it back to Mr. Velasquez. He'll tell you a little bit about himself.
How you doing again? My name is Mr. Robert Velasquez. A little bit about my background. I'm a former Army Ranger. Did the combat 3 times. I'm also a retired lieutenant. I ran the gang unit for 25 years. And I love it here where I'm at right now. It's a pleasure doing what I do right now.
And he oversees all our security. So I am very confident that Mr. Velasquez will be doing the right thing, not only for the Bentley, but also for our other shelters that we have in place as well.
Once again, Mr. White, I oversee all our shelters. I take care of all the programs in regards to the intake process, the incident reports, all the details in regards to making sure that the program runs smoothly. I handle that for all shelters that we currently have.
I also think that we have on this forum our program director, Mrs. Colon. Are you there? Ms. Colon should be, I'm not sure if she's online there.
Can she be on?
Hi, yes, I'm here. I'm
wonderful.
sorry. I am Carolina Colon. I am the program director at Bentley Hotel.
Want to give yourself a
Thank
little
you for
background?
having us. Yes,
Thank
so
you.
I have a bachelor's in criminal justice. I have a master's in clinical psychology, and I started my doctorate. It's still pending on psychology.
Thank you.
Haley, is there more?
No, thank you so much for introducing yourselves. So I'll just ask Highland Park if you could just briefly go over my apologies, the families that are currently at the location. This location serves, I believe, 197 families. Is that correct?
Yeah, I will let Ms. Colon take over that part, if you don't mind.
Okay, great. Yeah, so Ms. Colon, if you could just go over the briefly the amount of families and the social services that are being provided on site.
Yes, so we have approximately 197 families, 511 individuals. We service clients for medical, helping them with completing their asylum paperwork, helping them with medical. We have a lot of pregnant women that we service and send them to OBGYN. Any youth that didn't have the advantage to go to school in their country are registered with us with the Department of Education that's on site. We also have, we also have, well, like I said, the DOE there. We service clients with any medical needs, anything that they may need, especially asylum. We send them to refer them to any agency that they might need,
Great. Thank you so
especially
much.
those seeking asylum.
Great, thank you so much. And then also in addition to that, we ensure that all of the clients on site, I like to say residents, all the residents on site do also receive 3 meals a day. So they are receiving breakfast, lunch, and dinner. As Ms. Colonel mentioned, there are some expectant mothers on site. So if there's anything that they may need, or if they require any reasonable accommodations, and that will be submitted through the Department of Homeless Services, which will then honor any reasonable accommodations that are needed for the expectant mothers. If and when they give birth, there's also formula that will be provided if needed to any of the newborn babies upon their arrival, or if they're already on site. So if there's any babies on site, they will also get the formula that they so very much need if needed. And also if any children on site require any additional snacks, because sometimes we'll hear, well, what if 3 meals a day, kids get hungry throughout the day. If there is something that they do need, of course, if they ask, they will also receive any additional snacks that they may need. In addition to that, I know we briefly touched on DOE. So all of the children that were placed at this site before the end of the school year have been placed at the at schools. That is done within a partnership between the Department of Homeless Services and DOE's student and transitional housing teams. Upon enrollment, and DOE pretty much handles the rest of it, so that we can answer on the general level. But if there are any other specific school related questions, that would be best addressed by DOE. Sometimes vaccinations are asked about. Some of the children that do come to this country, they do have some vaccinations, but then there may be some that are, the requirements are different in our country, in the United States. So we would make sure that they at least start their vaccination process. I believe that the policy is within 30 days of enrolling in the school that they have to at least start their vaccination process. But of course, the OE can answer that a little bit more. But I just wanted to ensure that you all know that we do have that in place for our New Yorker students that are joining us. In addition to that, I know that Mr. Ruiz also mentioned that there's security, so there is 24/7 security on site. And so far we've been hearing great things about this location. There have been opportunities for individuals that wanted to give back and donate items. So that's been great. So I wanted to also thank the community for being so gracious. But so far everything is going great. So if there's any other questions that you all have, I'm more than happy to open the floor, and myself and my colleagues at DHS together with Highland Park are more than happy to answer any questions you may have.
I have a load, but let's get started with anybody else. Will you help me, Kevin, or will?
Yes, so the first member of the public who has a question is Erica. So I'm going to unmute Erica.
Great, Erica, thanks.
Thanks as always to the committee for setting up great speakers. What I would like to say and also ask is, in the 5 or 10 minutes that I've heard from you all, you've really said stuff that anyone can find on your website. So one, historically, my experience in trying to get help from the DOH has been limited to nothing for people who live in my neighborhood that are unhoused. That's one. Two, I heard the word security and precinct. So that gives me pause, because while, the asylum seekers need protection, of course, they are not criminals that are coming here. So my concern is them being over-policed, which we know is happening. That's one. As early as yesterday, the mayor has thrown his hands up over stuff. And then the other thing is what we're hearing from you. I'd be curious that if I met somebody who's getting these services on the street just randomly, would they tell me the same thing that you all are telling me?
And thank you so much for your questions, Erica. So I just wanted to clarify, you said from DOH or DHS? Because the Department of
Sorry.
Home,
DHS. I've reached out to them, I don't know how many times over the years, and there's been no follow-up when I've tried to get people living unhoused in my neighborhood. And I always get, well, they didn't want help, and that can't be true 100% of the time, because I've done this, I don't know how many dozens of times, whether I lived on the Upper West Side or here on the Upper East Side the last few years. But my biggest concern is the over policing that New York City engages in.
Yeah, so
Whether
we're-
it's against the our unhoused neighbors or immigrants. I can't even begin to wrap my head around the choice between fleeing what I've known my whole life, either pregnant or with children, or staying and being killed. So the lesser of the literally two evils, only to arrive in a city that has welcomed people historically for hundreds of years to its shores, only then to be over-policed and underserviced. And again, I appreciate the fact that you all have brought this to our neighborhood, because historically the Upper East Side has the lowest available number of shelter beds in our district. And I don't know anything about how it's welcomed asylum seekers. I would assume it's even lower than our unhoused neighbors. But I am very concerned whether the people that are going to be living in this place would tell me the same things that you all are telling me, as well as being over policed. That's a huge concern to me, because I lived on the Upper West Side at the beginning of the pandemic, and I saw and got involved with what happened with the men at the Luzerne, and out of that came the Open Hearts Initiative. Are you familiar with that group?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I also volunteer with them on the Upper East Side as well. So those are my concerns, because I can go to your website and read about what you're doing, but that's completely different than what's being implemented actually.
Yeah, so I definitely, I think we're actually in alignment. I don't think we couldn't agree with you more. So we definitely, and it's interesting that it's interesting that you say that, because oftentimes when we're having these conversations with folks, we're usually telling people like, hey, because a lot of the questions are usually around security, like, hey, there's a lot of people coming to our neighborhood. We want to know what security looks like. The security is also, of course, to keep the neighborhood safe, but also to keep our clients safe as well. So it is proper procedure to have proper DHS procedure to have security on site. But we also let folks know that, hey, we can't have, one security guard per person, because again, this is not, and a little bit of hyperbole there, but more so to say that we're not trying to over police our residents, because ultimately this is their home and this is where they're living. So we definitely don't want to give the feel of somebody feeling like they're so institutionalized, although shelter is an institution of itself, right? But we want to make it as homely and humanistic as possible, because that's what they deserve. And we want to make sure that they're being treated with compassion. So I would want to say, and I bet, and I'm sure my colleagues would want to agree, that if you were to run into a client on the street, that we would hope that they would say that they are getting great services on site. If by chance there was ever someone that said that they weren't getting, whether it was a specific service or if there was a concern, there are, in addition to numbers where they can, their case manager, or numbers on site where they can elevate any concerns. I would also say reach out to us through the community board, and we will also, of course, look into that as well, because we want to make sure that everyone is feeling comfortable, because coming here is very traumatic, right? In the way that a lot of our New Yorkers have come here, it's very traumatic. I can't even imagine what they've gone through. So we want to make sure that we're not adding on to that. So I couldn't agree with you more there. So I would just openly say, if there are any concerns, or if you all hear of that, please share that with us. And of course, Highland Park also agrees with that as well. They want to make sure folks are comfortable. And then as far as I know that you said that the security was your main concern, but I did want to touch on the street homelessness part, because the street homelessness, although it is different, in a sense, different from the asylum seeker piece, it does, in the spirit of transparency, in working with the street homeless population, it does take time to build trust to get somebody to come inside. People who are street homeless usually have additional barriers than somebody who may go through the traditional shelter intake system. So it may take some time where they may be engaged maybe a month and they come in, or they may be engaged for over a year before they come inside. So that is, often the case. I would say, of course, I'm sure you've heard this a million times before, but we would say, if you see somebody that appears to be street homeless, call 311, but also feel free to elevate that to us as well with the 311 number so that we can connect it and look into it internally, because we also do that as well, because we want to make sure that we're being responsive, right? So if you ever do call 311, please reach out to us, reach out to the community board, say, hey, I called 311, here's the number for the case. Can you all please look into it? And we'll make sure that our street outreach teams are on top of it.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Any other questions?
I have a load, but Kevin, is there anybody else raising their hands?
We have Judy Schneider.
Right, Judy.
Well, first it's nice to meet you, William Ruiz. We spoke on the phone several times, and so it's nice to see in person who I was speaking with. I met with Carolina. She's a lovely lady. Had some interaction when leaving her office to take the elevator to go down with some of the people living there. And I have to say, it was quite nice. Now I'm speaking wearing my East 60s Neighborhood Association hat. I think Will and Barbara have seen the flyer that the East 60s Neighborhood Association has put out. And this is a really very important issue. We sent it to the presidents of our 45 member buildings, and many of the buildings have listed the flyer in their lobby or on Building Link or in the mailroom, asking for them to please bring clean, new or gently used clothes to the hotel, because most of the people that are there only have the clothing that they came with. And that's a really very important issue. As a matter of fact, later in August, we're setting up a drive here in the building I live in. My president has agreed to let us use the conference room, and the police are going to help us deliver the clothes down to the hotel at the end of the day. But we'll be in touch with Carolina about that as it progresses. But I suggest that to everyone. Please spread the word. Meryl, I'd like to speak to you separately after the meeting is over about this and send you a flyer. It's
I
really
already did, Judy.
it's really important
Right.
that we give them there it is. Barry did it, so he takes the credit for it looking nice. They need sneakers. Those should be new or gently used. They need clothing. They have babies. They need diapers. They need toiletry. So for the neighbors who are here, I just emphasize, please spread the word. Anyone gets in touch with me, I'm happy to send the flyer to you in hard copy or email. And that's, we as a neighborhood association are just trying to help them however we can.
Thank you,
you,
Judy.
Barbara.
Yeah. Thank you. Kevin, is there anybody else?
No, there are no more hands.
Okay, then I'm going to
There's
ask
Meryl.
Meryl. Yes, please do, Meryl.
I will say, if I may,
Okay. I got Judy's.
Go ahead, Haley. Sorry. And Meryl, I'll unmute you in a second.
okay, apologies. Just wanted to jump in really quickly. I just saw the flyer. Of course, very thankful for the donations and putting that together. I think that's really awesome, and just wanted to say thank you. I did just want to flag that oftentimes, well, due to social service law and just protecting the privacy of our clients, we don't typically share the addresses of our shelter locations outwardly into community. So it is, of course, well-intentioned and very much appreciated, but I just wanted to share that if we could have a bit of caution in how it's being shared. Of course, the donations are, of course, well received, but just wanted to be a little bit mindful in how we are disseminating the flyer if possible.
Okay, well, we've just disseminated it to our buildings, right? That are neighborhood buildings that belong to the association that are right around the hotel, and have asked questions. So having met with Ms. Colon and Mr. Ruiz, we've been able to answer a lot of their questions and allay any fears that we may have, that they may have, that they can bring back to their people. So we just thought this was a good community outreach thing to do. I didn't realize when I was chatting with Carolina, I don't think we mentioned anything about mentioning the location, because how would they know where to bring the clothes?
Because they're bringing it. So there's usually a few ways that it's being done. If you're already in conversation with Mr. Ruiz, then that's totally fine. Typically, sometimes how we would do it, we would maybe we would drop off. We would either work together with an elected official's office or with the community board, and maybe have them first dropped off in that location and then send it to the shelter site, or we still organize a drop off to the actual shelter site directly, but it would be through like one direct means instead of having various people go to the actual location, just because of, the location and privacy around the clients. But of course, it is very well intentioned, and we very much appreciate it, but we try to minimize as many people coming to the shelter as possible, due to those reasons around privacy concerns.
I have to ask a question then. So when I write my minutes, I should not mention the Ben Hotel, I assume.
You can't, no, in the minutes, and I know sometimes it's like a little, it is public information, because then we do a notification, it's public information. But at times when we're disseminating, things in the community, oftentimes we would err on the side of more caution and sharing things more outwardly. So I'm sure that, and these individuals are very close to the shelter, but maybe for the future, we can also help and support you all with how we can streamline it and maybe try to minimize how many folks come to the shelter. But for this, of course, thank you, and we'll work through it. But
thank you
for the future.
Meryl.
Hi there. Thank you very much for acknowledging me. And I am a member of the East 60s Neighborhood Association. It's do wonderful things. And again, these intentions are so good. I was impressed when I saw that flyer. I did not disseminate the flyer yet. There's one person at the Sutton Place Conservancy, which is the area in the immediate vicinity of 57th through about 53rd, that would probably appreciate it, but I would only send it to the officers of the Sutton Place Conservancy on behalf of that whole area, which would be affected, the lower 60s and 70s. I'm not sure this would disturb the balance of privacy and helping out. But perhaps we should run this past some of the people who are supervising some of the homeless activity, some of the activities within the government and the community board and the public. Is there somebody who's doing that?
So I know typically in the past for the other locations, because New Yorkers are very giving, so we're very thankful for it. So typically what's happened is they would reach out through. Oftentimes it could be a community resident, it could be a nonprofit organization, it could be a community board saying, hey, we want to put, something together to be able to give to the residents of the shelter. There's been times where they've gone and selected a location in community that kept all of the donations. So whether it was like a community-based organization or the actual community board or an elected official's office, and they would hold the donations, and then we would coordinate a pickup. So that's one way of doing it. Or there has been times where the elected official's office or the community board will bring the donations on behalf of the community, and that way it's like streamlined, and it minimizes how many folks visit the shelter. But that's just one. There's a few ways of doing it and trying to be creative that way.
ESNA has always had wonderful coat drives at Christmas time and done other wonderful things. And I imagine Sutton Place has too. So I hope that you guys can communicate about that. I'll be happy to send to Sutton Place Conservancy with the proviso that they are working on finding a delivery point, accessibility point to deliver things. But that's up to Judy and the people with whom she works.
There's also been in other communities as well. I attended, there was a community-based organization. They created like a shopping, like it was like a coat drive, clothing drive, shoe drive, and clients were able to come in and shop. And they created this at a community location, which is also very nice as well. So folks have gotten very creative.
Thanks.
There's a little bit, if the clients go offsite to a location like that to do something like that, it's a bit I want to say less I don't want to say less rules, for lack of better words, but it's a lot of less maybe red tape. But of course, it's all well intentioned, and it's just to keep everybody safe.
Yep.
Thank you. Thank you, Meryl.
My pleasure.
Meryl is also a public member of our committee, so thank you, Meryl, for coming.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, I'm going to start.
Erica.
Oh, Eric again. Thanks.
So Haley, Open Hearts Initiative does that. Carl Garrison is a pastor at a church up in the East, I think on East 86 somewhere. So if you can give Will your email address, they have big ones as a result. It's a joint venture between Open Hearts Initiative and Buy No Goods or whatever that group is. So it's a store where, you know, a lot of the stuff is gently used, but people can come and look for what they need, as opposed to it just being, you know, when it's not emergent, like when they're not newly arriving and they've already been established a bit, this is a good way for them to obviously maintain dignity, allowing them to go and choose the things that they need and want for them or their families. So if you give him your email address, I can connect you with Open Hearts Initiative.
Great, thank you. And I believe Will has my email address, but I'll send him an email just to make sure it's at the top of his email inbox.
Okay. Yeah, but that's, and they also did, they can tell you more about what they did, but they're really good about, they will do like tables outside on like welcome days. If you know that there's a big group of people moving in, they'll do stuff. People will show up and do arts and crafts with kids and like all that stuff, you know, on a weekend day for a few hours. So yeah, the neighborhood will welcome them.
Thank you.
Thank
We definitely
you. Kevin, am I up or is it somebody else?
There's no one left.
Okay. Thank you. And on a personal note, I'm so pleased that you came and talked to about it. And but I do have several questions. Maybe this is for Highland Park, but I'm not understanding the role of Highland Park with homeless and the immigrants. Are they, is it different? Like, would you have a homeless person going to the Bentley Hotel also? Are your shelters the same? I would like Highland offered to tell us all the other locations they had in our district, and I would very much like to hear that. I wonder if we could hear a little bit more about the balance with the immigrant and the homeless people, if that's possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Co-Chair. I would love to answer that question. So out of the shelter, we have 8 shelters in total. Out of the 8 shelters, we have 5 that are sanctuary. The others are regular shelters. The difference between these shelters is that the ones that we have that are not sanctuary are shelters with a full kitchen, bathroom. It's almost like an apartment like. So they have the ability to cook. So they go shopping. The difference between the other one, the sanctuary, is that they don't have, as you know, a hotel is a hotel. But the good thing about it is that we're implementing not frozen food, but we will be implementing a buffet style. So it's basically, if you go, it's almost like if you go into a very 5-star hotel, you're going to go downstairs and you're going to get a free buffet. So, and that's breakfast, lunch, and dinner, 7 days a week for everybody that's there. As far as placing people, we have at the Bentley have actually placed 13 families within the time that we've been there. And we're continuing doing intakes and discovering where they have families so we can relocate them, whether it's to a different state or maybe to a different borough. They have families, because most of the people that come here, there's 2 situations. One, they don't have family, and then the other ones do have family, but they have to go through the process, right? So in order for us to know what type of process their status, we have to do an intake. It is a bitty, a lengthy intake. It details a lot of stuff. And then we take that information and we try to process it to where it fits that one particular family. And
Somebody says they have family in Ohio, they will
if they
be,
have family in Ohio, we would try to find a way how to get them to Ohio.
okay?
Yep.
That's-
So,
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
no. You
So
continue.
that's what we do in all our shelters. We do have shelters in different areas. We have them in Brooklyn, we have them in Queens. We have one in Queens that we're going to be starting up pretty soon. We have 3 in Manhattan. So we're covering the 4 corners of Manhattan. And then we have some in Brooklyn as well. So we have a good staff. We have about 297 employees. And everything is in-house. We do not subcontract out because it's more internal control to actually help the families and also, the staff as well.
And you use the word sanctuary. It may have a different definition. What is your definition of, what do you mean by sanctuary shelters?
Haley, you want to
So
ask?
as far as, yeah, I'm happy to jump in there. So at the Sanctuary Hotel, so what happened is, so New York City is a sanctuary city.
Yes,
So a lot of individuals that are coming to seek asylum have been coming to New York City for that reason. When we started seeing an influx of individuals coming here from, I wanted to say we started to see a lot of buses come in May of last year. Once we started to see the spike, we were like, okay, we really have, this seems like we're going to continue to get more buses and we're going to have to really figure out a plan. And having done that, we wanted to ensure that we were, one, creating capacity because we do have a legal and moral mandate to offer shelter to individuals. And then second, also offering folks tailored needs. As you know, and vulnerable New Yorkers, of course, need, supportive services and subsidies and public assistance benefits. This population in particular, asylum seekers, they come with different needs or different barriers and challenges. So for us, we created the sanctuary facility so that we are streamlining services for this specific population coming in. So initially there were some individuals that may have been mixed into the shelter system, the largest shelter system, because we were just figuring it out. It was very new.
Right.
And then as we started to see more, we're like, okay, we have to, figure out. So that's where the sanctuary aspect came from. So as individuals are coming in, we're putting them in sanctuary hotels. So these locations are filled with asylum seekers or folks that are identifying as asylum seekers or seeking asylum are at these locations, and they are getting more specific services related to help with immigration or connecting them with their asylum paperwork, to what Ms. Colon was mentioning. If it's reunification in another state, working with them to do that as well. And just really trying to figure out what their needs are, because it's very nuanced and each case is different because immigration is so nuanced in and of itself as well. So that's why we've created the sanctuary facilities.
and it sounds like it's separate than our, traditional homeless, the New York City homeless system. Okay, great, thanks. Let's see if I could read my handwriting. I think I'm up to my next page. I think you've answered a lot of my questions that I had. What is it that we can actually do? It's been answered, and I would love to hear more from Erica. I may offline hear more from Erica, but like, for instance, there was one point I was a buddy to somebody in the South Bronx for many years until he got older. Is there something that we can do that maybe with the children, besides bringing them stuff, which I know they need and is important? And I don't speak Spanish, unfortunately. Can you tell us, as a community, we often ask that?
So I think it would depend. So of course there's donations, and I'll lean on my colleagues at DHS if you want to chime in here a bit. With youth, because especially minors, we do have to be careful. There are specific policies in place around how to engage with young people. I would say that the best way of working to see how to support young people would maybe be through the neighborhood schools, because we may have a different way of volunteering or supporting on site with the schools. Also with us, there may be some opportunity to support there, but there are there's some levels of clearance that may have to take place. I would say, like, reach out to us with any ideas that you have, and if we're able to work through it, we're more than happy to. But it may be best to go through the route of the schools, whether it's through the PTA or through the principal, and seeing what can be done there. It might be a-
That's why we
Um,
engage
uh,
organizations like
Can I say
OHI,
something?
Wait.
because that's why we engage organizations like OHI, because they will also work within the community. So they'll do things like backpack drives if the kids need backpacks, filled up to go back to school with and that kind of thing. So I think for the community board, I'd be happy to connect this group to Open Hearts Initiative to see ways that we can partner with them, because I volunteer with them. regularly. The other thing is, Barbara, New York City is a designated sanctuary city like
Yes.
San Francisco. And so, I work in communication, so I try not to get tied up in jargon, and every agency, every company, every organization has the way they talk about stuff, and the way that they're referencing it is that it's a sanctuary hotel because we're a designated sanctuary city, and it's falling in under that,
I
that
see.
category.
I had a different interpretation of it, but thank you.
Right,
And
it's not like Shangri-La, we're a designated sanctuary city.
well, I knew that, but I thought, in terms of the schools, is there,
Can I say something when you get finished, please?
yeah, who is this? Wilma?
Wilma's been trying to say something for half an
Well, why
hour.
don't you say it now? Then why don't you say it now?
Okay, I want to
Wait,
ask
Steve,
Judy, first of all, I couldn't get through before. Judy, I'd like to have a copy of the flyer. Also, about the schools, I think that's a very good idea to get connected to the school because they need a lot of help with the children. If you have a connection in the school, it'll be beneficial to a child. I started working in the school today, and the children that I experience today, they don't speak English. So it's hard if you don't have a Spanish speaking teacher, which I'm sure they're trying to get before school starts in September. But as far as the summer programs, some schools already have some silent speakers in there. And it's quite interesting on just how much help you can get if you volunteer in a school, if you already connect to a school.
Wilma's doing amazing work, I have to say, the children in the school. But you were able to communicate with the kids?
Yes. I mainly did hand language and talking and especially with hand signals and stuff. But it's very, I really enjoyed doing it today, and I look forward to doing it Wednesday. I do it twice a week.
I bet they would learn what McDonald's means very quickly. Something like that. In terms of school, are they going in our neighborhood, and is there a consistency of staying in the same school and so on?
Who are you talking to? Me?
No,
All
not
I know
you.
is-
No, not
Oh.
you. I'm sorry. I mean,
Question,
you
Barbara?
know-
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yes.
Could you repeat the question?
Anyway, the kids in school, do they stay in the same school? Is there a consistency with it? Or do they move around a lot and therefore move schools, or what happens in terms of schooling?
Well, we definitely want to ensure continuity. So for the length of stay while a family is within our care, we would definitely want to make sure that they remain in the same school. Sometimes, so let's say for an Indigenous New Yorker that may already be in the shelter system, if they do move from a shelter to another shelter for whatever reason, we would want to keep them at that school if possible. But it's up to the families. We do offer busing services. We do offer Metro cards. So there's an opportunity to maintain and to stay in the same school. Sometimes families opt to actually change schools so that they can be closer to home. So it's usually really up to the families. It's not really up to the agency to pick where they would like to go if they change. When we do have a family that arrives newly to the shelter, if the child is not yet enrolled, then of course we will enroll the student or the child to the closest school that has the available capacity for them to be enrolled in, and they would stay at the school until they want to for as long as they want to be at the school, or for as long as the family wants to be there.
And what can we do to speed I'm sorry, somebody else talking?
I was saying something about that. Being that the school attendance is low for this year and last year, to bring extra children into the school that don't have full capacity is a very good chance of a lot of children getting into schools that don't have their capacity because of the pandemic. A lot of people chose to use homeschooling, so it gives opportunity for more space to have the newcomers in and get the help that they need.
Which school are you going to, Wilma? The one on
The
96th
school
Street?
at CS 198,
Which is where, on 96th Street?
90, yes, and 3rd Avenue.
Okay. Thank you. I'm going to bring up one other topic. I'm a little nervous. We had, as I'm sure you know, thoughts of having a safe haven, and not for immigrants, but for our homeless. And we don't know the results of it. And is there anything that you can share, and what it would be used for, and if it's going to be used, or anything like that? I don't know if it's Department of Homeless that will answer, or anybody else. Haley?
Sorry, I accidentally muted myself. It's like a force of habit to mute myself. I sincerely apologize. We don't have, do you know which location you're speaking about in particular?
91st between First and York.
91st between. So I actually do not have that information readily available with me now, but I'm more than happy to look into it and circle back to.
Thank you.
91st between York and what was the other street?
First and York.
Thank you.
On the north side of the street.
Okay. We'll follow up.
Are there any, again, I just would like to make it clear. I was thinking of calling my synagogue, which is on 51st Street, in 3rd Avenue, right? And many of the people live more in the Sutton Place and so on. Is that something we shouldn't do? Should we just go through? Is that okay to do it, and to say, can we start getting a drive? I know we've done that when there was the fire in the Bronx and things like that, that people brought stuff. Is that something you would ask not to do?
Well, I want to say that we wouldn't want to say not to do it, but we do have to just be mindful, because I know that there's already a drive happening, and these locations, the shelter, the hotel in of itself, it's a hotel room. So there isn't much storage space. So I think that with this, maybe the best way of approaching it would be like, let this first drive happen, and then you can reach out to us if there's any needs. And then Highland Park would maybe get back to you with if there's any needs that any of the clients may have. And then you all can use that list to see if there's any other, needs for support that are available.
That's great. And if they would use it through the community board and maybe some of these other, the Open Heart, that would be wonderful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because we just want to make sure, because of course fire hazards, we want to make sure that folks are safe and that the small spaces aren't too cluttered. So we want to make sure, of course, we want folks to have what they need, but we also want to make sure that there isn't obstruction of the space and, walking through the doors and walkways. So want to make sure.
One other question. I'm on the Community Advisory Board of Metropolitan Hospital. Are they using Metropolitan? That's how the public, one of the New York City hospitals. Is that the hospital they would use, or Bellevue, or one of those? Or are they how are they getting medical care? Who's taking care of them?
So we are referring them to Metropolitan Hospital.
Yeah. It's
Most of
very
all
good
of them.
hospital. They will get very good care there.
They're all going to Metropolitan.
Good. Okay.
That's great.
I'm happy to hear that, because Wilma's on the board too. It's a very impressive hospital.
They have a lot of services there.
Yeah.
Hi, Barbara. So Floor has had their hand up for quite a long time, so maybe we can go to them first.
Sure.
Hi, everybody. Hi. I work at the office of the Assembly Member Rebecca C. Wright, and I just have, a little bit of a couple of questions, and is regarding mostly that in the modern welfare state, there are resources allocated to provide for all these families coming. It's an international agreement that we as a nation are respecting, and they have covered, like, for example, they have the right to initiate an immigrant status. They have the right to apply for Medicaid. They have the right to apply for food stamps and, different resources that are part of the international agreement. Also, they do have the right for housing, to be provided permanent housing, and they have the shelters that are receiving them are the structure is supposed to provide social work services. I would like to ask if the Highland Park is providing the social work services. They have what is the number of social workers assigned to this site, what is the number of people who have been referred to the pro bono immigrant lawyers so they could apply for asylum because they are just, temporary here. They have a year to apply. So there are different services that they are supposed to be providing, but I don't hear about them.
Ms. Colon, you can take that question.
Mhm. Yep.
Ms. Colon?
Sorry, I couldn't find the mute button. So for right now, we have Children's Village on site. They have a pro bono lawyer that is assisting them with asylum, how to complete asylum paperwork.
Do you mind to be more specific? Like if there is a pro bono lawyer for the entire number of people living in the shelter.
So yes, so they come as soon as a client comes in, they complete an intake and they meet with a pro bono lawyer. This lawyer meets with the client separately, asks them questions about where they came from. If they are seeking asylum, will they qualify for asylum? Not everyone qualifies for asylum. So in that moment, that person will tell the client if they qualify for asylum and what they need to do, what are the next steps to complete for their asylum paperwork. It's usually the I-589, that's what they have to fill out. They also work with them to do the
right, but who fills
I-589.
out? It's so difficult and so complicated, and they have, to have a specific narrative to a person that has been through a lot of a series of traumatic events.
So they need to,
yes.
Everything needs to be documented. They need to have proof of why they're seeking asylum, whether it's, the war, we have Ukrainians because of the war, they're seeking asylum. There will be a proof of asylum. Running from the government. There's a lot of their country, and that's one of the not only does the lawyer, assist them, but also us as case managers, we can also assist them with completing paperwork, such as a lot of them have courts in Texas, and we submit paperwork for them to change to New York City.
And what is the number of social workers on site?
So it's not really a social worker. It's the lawyer is on site right now from the Children's Village, and us as case managers, we assist them as well.
So the lawyer is for the children and for the adults?
For both.
For both.
For both.
For both. So the agency is.
Right. And for the application of benefits, what is the rate or the number of social workers per family?
So they have this not-for-profit organization that's actually in the Valley right now, where they have a team of social workers, intake specialists, and the pro bono lawyer.
Right.
Their job is to collaborate. Their job is to collaborate with us. We should by the end of this month we should have about 12 workers there, case workers.
Case workers, no social worker on site.
Social workers are referred out because you need an LCSW for that.
No, that's for clinical, right? The LC is for clinical, but the LM,
Exactly. So we have caseworkers. We weren't allocated for social workers. We have caseworkers that do the outside referrals. So that's how we intertwine with the community. But if your agency could lead us into the right direction, also with the extra help, that would be fantastic.
yeah, of course. It's just that the money has already been allocated for these services to be provided.
I'm sorry, run that by me again.
That the money has already been allocated for these services to be provided.
Well, that's something that we have to take on with DHS, because when we come in, you know, social workers, first of all, even if we have social worker money, it's hard to find an LCSW. Correct me if I'm wrong. They want to get paid $125 an hour, you know, and that's something that's, you know, who could afford that, right? But the point is that as long as we could try to get these families into the right direction, also with the help of your assembly, right, assembly member, we could actually work together. So we're open to ideas. We would love to share our ideas with you and your team, and with the rest of the community. I mean, it's about, and I understand your concern, because it's also our concern as well, because we want to make sure that it is a lot of paperwork to be filled out. It's very, very, very few lawyers out there that want to do pro bono work, especially if it's immigration. You could find corporate, you could find insurance lawyers, but to find immigration lawyers is like finding a needle in a haystack. And if your agency or the state senator or the city council or maybe any other non-for-profit could collaborate with us in that direction, we'll be holding hands down, you know, going to watch The Wizard of Oz.
Laura?
Yes, no, I do understand it. You know, I just wanted to clarify that, you know, the families are being in the hotel, and they are all these services like healthcare services, pro bono lawyers, applications for benefits. They are all part of the social work area where they have been assigned. That we absolutely could be a support system for any particular case that is, you know, being difficult, but the main work has been, the service has been secure for them.
Thank you. And we appreciate, I think, that Liz Kruger, our state senator, is on the line also and hearing, and we appreciate that. Is there any other questions? Comments? Again, we thank you for coming to us. I think that the
hello
session was good. Yep.
Hello.
Yes. Hi.
Yes, hi. This is Carol from DHS, and one of the overseers of the program administrator for the Bentley. So I just wanted to, I know the gentleman just spoke, so I just want to show him that with the Department of Homeless Services also, we have resources, and the provider just took over the site, so they will be assessing as more needs come up. And one of the things that we're able to do, you know, this is a whole community affair, so there's so much resources out there. So as the need comes and things are being assessed, we will, you know, they definitely, a lot of our providers reach out to the different community resources. We at DHS, we also refer and give our providers resources. So we do work very collaboratively with our community, and to see what resources are there that we can use. But it's a joint affair. And as you know, as someone that oversees the shelter, I make sure that we make sure we are overseeing in terms of the clients, that the provider also is what they can provide, what more is out there. We encourage that. We say, okay, let's do this, let's do that for the clients. So this is something that is taken very seriously. I think we have made, in terms of getting the clients their immigration appointment, that's a number one concern for them. This is something that we take very seriously. So as they come in, we try to get on top of their, hey, what is your immigration appointment? Where is it? Getting them located there. If they need to go to Boston, whatever, trying to get them the transportation to get there. But most as soon as they come here, especially to New York, we try to make sure that we set them up to get to transfer the immigration appointment to New York. Okay, so it's a whole community. Whatever the resources are, whatever the needs are, as it comes along, we do, impart. We partner with the community.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions or anything like that? I don't see any, Kevin. Do you?
No. If you have any comments, please raise your hand.
Your virtual hand, I guess, at this point. Then this.
I'd like to make a comment.
Sure.
I just appreciate all the facts and information that I got. I understand a lot more what's going on with the asylum seekers because a lot I did not understand before. So I really appreciate the people that gave us the information this evening. It really helps me to understand exactly what's going on, and wondering how more I can be assisted.
Thank you. Thank you,
You're
Wilma. That's what we're here. We appreciate the partnership, and thank you for all that you're doing and what the community board is doing. We definitely appreciate that you all have welcomed our New Yorkers with open arms and invited us to be here this evening to talk to you all about this, because that's what partnership's all about. So just wanted to give you all a big as well.
Well, I think the fact that you came to us is a very positive thing. We thank you. Can we call it a night then?
Yeah, I think so.
Great. Well, we thank everybody, Will, Kevin, everybody else that's there, and appreciate it again. We look forward to a relationship going on. And for the Department of the Homeless, we also look forward to helping our neighbors, our New York neighbors that need so much help. And
Judy, you have your hand raised. Do you have a question?
No, move to adjourn.
thanks, Judy. And I'll second it.
Thanks all. Have a restful evening.
Thank you, everybody, very much.
Okay. Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you, Kevin.